Greetings, Taurus and Taurus rising. This is your Western forecast for July 2025. I always start with, where is the sun shining? Well, it's in Cancer every July. Actually, the last week of June, the first 3 weeks of July. And as I always mention, where the sun is shining, it's putting a spotlight on a certain area, a certain domain in your chart. So that's where your priorities are more directed, where you're paying more attention, where you might be lighting up more. Well, the sun's in Cancer, which is 3 signs past Taurus. So where this attention and focus every year was third house of information, communication, studying, writing, speaking, selling, learning. That's the third house. It could be in the summer time, in the northern latitudes, you could be going away for the weekends or going on a holiday, but a short trip, like 3 or 4 days. That's a spotlight of the third house. But the big issue is that I discussed last month is expansive knowledge-seeking, traveling Jupiter went into Cancer through the end of June 2026. So Jupiter's in Cancer once every 12 years. And so the sun, the first 3 weeks of July, is putting a real spotlight on what the Jupiter is trying to bring into your life for the next year. Now, it could take a year through June of 2026 for Jupiter to bring all of its blessings and opportunities. But the sun, the first 3 weeks now, putting a spotlight on Jupiter, is you're getting the ideas. You could be thinking and planning and discussing. So, with Jupiter and the sun in the third house, could be very favorable for short distance traveling, very favorable for selling, for learning, for speaking. You might even find that your voice has more power. Now, the third house also represents siblings and your neighbors, your neighborhood. And so this could be, there could be healing with siblings or neighbors. There could be more generosity or traveling with siblings. But this Jupiter also represents publishing and marketing, because it's the natural ruler of the 9th sign of the zodiac. But anyhow, having publishing, teaching Jupiter in the third house, you could be getting a book ready to publish, or you're doing a lot of content writing for your social media or website. That could be very favorable, certainly very favorable for promoting a lot of new products and ideas out to the world. And the third house is really good for selling. Now, there's 2 big other planetary events. Uranus, progressive, brilliant, radical Uranus, is an 84-year cycle. And the last 7 years, it was in your sign of Taurus. And Taurus likes a lot of stability. And Uranus in Taurus can just bring in a lot of unpredictable ups and downs. But now, come July the 6th, Uranus is now in Gemini. Now, it's going to retrograde briefly back into Taurus. As we get to this November, December, January, February. But it's back into Gemini till 2033. When Uranus is all this progressive, inventive, thinking out of the box energies, Uranus in Gemini Gemini is the sign after Taurus. It represents the second sector. And the second sector is the natural home of Taurus. It's the second sector is your income, your personal income, your possessions. So it's a financial area. With Uranus there, first time, the only time in your lifetime, for the next 8 years, your finances, the second house, could be very unpredictable, Uranus, but it's also thinking of the positive, as long as you keep focused and directed to what you want and your goals in life, new sources of income. And through technology, inventions, or anything that deals with media and the communication industry, which is all under the umbrella of Uranus. Now, Uranus in Gemini, Gemini is the sign of communications. So with Uranus in Gemini, there's going to be a lot of technological advancements in communications. And Pluto is in Aquarius for the next 20 years. But Aquarius is the sign ruled by Uranus. And I'm bringing this up because Uranus in July is at 0 degrees of Gemini. August, September, early October, it moves to 1 degree of Gemini and then appears to stop in retrograde. Now, when this August, September, early October, when Uranus is at 1 degree of Gemini, it's trining the best flow of energy to Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius, and Uranus rules Aquarius, so it's a once in a lifetime trine that has so much to do with technology and progressive new ideas, and all new ways, or you inventing new ways of making monies. Now, I'm going to be talking about later Venus, pleasure-seeking, loving. Venus can also be financial energies. Venus goes through each sign throughout the year. Each month, it's usually in a different sign. Venus will be in Gemini in July. But also got to talk about Mercury, communication, decision-making. Mercury is in Leo from the end of June towards the end of end of September. But Mercury will be retrograde, as it does about every 4 months, a time of assumptions and misunderstandings and losing things. You've heard all the mantra. But Mercury will be retrograde July the 17th through August the 10th in your 4th house sector of home, family, and real estate matters. And then we want to talk a little bit about Mars, because Mars goes through all the signs every 2 years. But before I go to the next phase, if you enjoy these kinds of videos and would like to see more of them, click like and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can receive the latest postings. Now, Venus is the ruling planet for Taurus. So transits of Venus always impact you very personally, very directly. Venus is that planet of desire and romance, creativity. But Taurus likes a lot of financial security, and Venus, its ruling planet. So Venus, along with love and romance and creativity, Venus we also look to for financial matters, financial desires. So having Venus in Gemini from July the 4th through the 30th, joining Uranus, that Uranus will be sparking Venus. But just for the month of July. Now, over these next 8 years, once a year, Venus will go back into Taurus, and this will be repeated maybe 7 more times. But it's in your, as I said, it's in the Venus and Uranus are in your second house of income. So monies could come and go fast. And it could also be possibly through technology, technical writing, any kind of unusual financial opportunity. You could also be reassessing what you value. That's also connected with the second house in your values in love and finances. What you have to watch out for are sudden expenses, and you need to be very flexible with your finances. But in general, Venus conjuncting Uranus in July for everybody brings in the sudden attractions. Sudden is Uranus, attraction is Venus. There might be creative breakthroughs, potential shakeups, liberations and breakthroughs in relationships and or in finances. This combo of Venus with Uranus is very much associated with freedom. And so freedom in love, innovative art, new money-making ideas. Now, it's in the second house of income, which is not a relational, social, loving domain, but it's still Venus. And so maybe through financial negotiations, networking, there might be a flirty infatuations just because of Venus-Uranus. Now Mercury, that planet of information, communications, it's going to be in your 4th house of home and family. So the whole time Mercury, from June the 26th to September the 21st, it's hanging out in Leo, 4 signs past Taurus. The 4th, your thoughts, Mercury turns to family, home, your emotional roots. During retrograde, home repairs, family discussions, emotional clarity may stall, old family wounds resurfacing, technical issues at home. That Mercury in retrograde can be a time to revise and rethink. One of the things I would advise against in general, unless you have a lot of backup, is you wouldn't want to start any kind of major construction in real estate, or trying to buy a new place, or hiring contractors to remodel or repair with your property, because with Mercury in retrograde, July the 17th through August the 10th, it doesn't necessarily have to all be one big mistake, but Mercury represents your expectations. And chances are there's more of a tendency it will not turn out as expected. And there could just be a lot of disappointments and delays and frustrations all around real estate, or a family reunion and holidays, lots of miscommunications. Certainly wouldn't want to be advising to move and relocate that end of July into early August. Now, you may have to. There might be a great opportunity and you need to, but just expect the unexpected, expect things to be delayed. As one example, the last time I moved, it wasn't during Mercury in retrograde, but as an example of Mercury in retrograde, I set up an appointment for the movers. They said they were going to be there at 9 o'clock. By 9:30 to 10 o'clock, I finally hear from the movers. And they said, oh, there's been a problem. We've got to push it till 5. They never showed up till 6:30. So this is where it has nothing to do with Mercury retrograde for me. But if you're trying to move, that's an example of the delays, the frustrations. And finally, Mars. Mars is ego-oriented, ambitious, aggressive, assertive. Mars goes through each sign every 2 years. It will be in Virgo, an earth sign, compatible with Taurus, an earth sign, from June the 17th through August the 6th. So all of July, assertive, impatient, aggressive Mars is in Virgo. Virgo is very earthy, it's very analytical, it's very work-oriented, but it's favorable for Taurus. And it's in 5 signs past Taurus. So there could be a lot of ambition and drive with 5th house matters, which is creative projects, doing creative design work, but best before the Mercury goes retrograde on the 17th. The 5th house is romance. The 5th house is children. So you could be very busy, goal-oriented with creative projects, but also there could be a lot of passionate desires in romance. And if you are desiring and hoping to get pregnant or give birth, that Mars gives the fire, the passion to ignite childbirth or conception with that Mars in the 5th house. 5th house, one last thing, can deal with sports. And whether it's professional or just playing with friends, from, tennis, golfing, baseball, running, whatever it is, that Mars is the athletic planet. It is the warrior planet, and it's in harmony with Taurus in the 5th house. So you might be more motivated to play sports. You may be more competitive and driven at sports. And having Mars in Virgo's very analytical. So you could also be really developing your technique and learning with a teacher, perhaps a trainer, better techniques at a particular sport through the month of July. I want to thank you for watching. If you like information on how to book an astrology reading or to check out my 2-question offer, visit my website at gardino.co. That's .co. Until next month, be safe and well.